UW360 is proudly supported by BECU, a not-for-profit member-owned credit union. Pacific Office Automation, copy, print, workflow, and IT. Problem solved.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Douglas. Welcome to UW360. In today's show, we'll introduce you to Bruce Crandall, a UW alum and Medal of Honor recipient. We'll show you a computer game that may help cure deadly diseases. We'll listen in on a philosophy class for fourth graders. And we'll share some memories from 40 years ago on campus. Now, in our first story, we're taking you to Husky Stadium. For die-hard football fans, this is the place to be on game days in the fall. But this year, the final home game will be followed by bulldozers. Demolition begins in November to make way for a brand new Husky Stadium. There are a lot of memories here, beginning with the players, who have a powerful attachment to the tunnel.
It's an understatement to say emotions run high during a football game. Most players, coaches, and fans can barely contain themselves. But the place of the most intense emotions in all of the University of Washington's Husky Stadium is one the crowd never gets to see. A corridor through which both teams have to enter and exit the field. The tunnel.
Whenever I take someone on a tour of Husky Stadium, it always starts in the tunnel. And even on a Saturday afternoon in July with no one in the building, people are blown away.
The tunnel went through some transformation. The tunnel today is not what the tunnel was years ago.
In the early days, even when I played, it wasn't as fancy as it is today. It wasn't painted white, nice lighting, posters on the wall.
And I think it was even dirt at one point.
It was dark, it was wet, it was dank. It had a couple 40-watt light bulbs hanging down by the wires.
With spider webs.
I know that James did go in, some lights were actually put in the tunnel, and some AstroTurf was put down.
When we're in the tunnel, there's a little jockeying that would go on between us and some of the other teams. We would always kind of start at the head of the tunnel and let those teams go by, and while they were going by, it'd be a lot of barking going on. We consider ourselves some rabid dogs, and we used to have a chant that we would say in the tunnel.
My first experience down the tunnel, I had to learn what these chants are, and you learn real quick what to say, what to do, what not to do.
I can't repeat all the words that we use in that chant, but that would get us fired up before a game.
When you get in there and you're with your buddies and it's tight, you really feel connected before you take the field.
And you could already hear the people in the crowd. You could hear the stadium thundering before we even walked down.
The hair on the back of my neck just goes straight up.
As you're heading down, you're going, God, did I go to the bathroom? Because, it just starts building up.
The first game of actually being in uniform and walking down that tunnel, I remember just almost peeing my pants. Just coming down that tunnel was so loud.
And captain's going, okay, let's go. Boom! 1, 2, 3, go! You run out, and the crowd would just go nuts.
When you come out of that tunnel and just the excitement, and the fans all of a sudden going nuts, the horns going off, and the dogs running around, the cheerleaders are doing their thing. It's pretty exciting, and it really is.
The crowd erupts for the first home game of the new season, and here me and all these other young kids are running out of there just wide-eyed like a deer in headlights, and it was just unbelievably intense.
For anybody who's been down that tunnel, they get it, and for anybody who's not, you're missing out because it is an amazing experience.
The tunnel is something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
I'm not sure there's another entrance in sports that rivals that.
You can see more stories about Husky Stadium and the players who made it so memorable in our series Greatest Moments at Husky Stadium. Just go to our website, uwtv.org/UW360, and you'll find a link to everything you need to know about the series. Now, in our next story, we're going to honor another kind of memory. The Medal of Honor is awarded for servicemen or women for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his or her life above and beyond the call of duty. 8 former UW students have received this honor, the highest number at any public university in the country. One of those honorees, Bruce Crandall, was awarded the Medal of Honor for his service in Vietnam.
One of the first things you notice about Bruce Crandall is his sense of humor. Take his story about receiving his draft notice in 1952 from the Selective Service.
I got a letter in the mail, and it says, "Greetings, you've been selected by your friends and neighbors." And I looked up my two friends and beat hell out of them and found out it wasn't them, so no, I didn't.
But that humor and that story belie the larger-than-life essence of Bruce's character. He's a hero, and he's one of 8 people who attended the University of Washington to be awarded the nation's highest military recognition, the Medal of Honor, a citation for actions and risks beyond the call of duty.
If your grandchildren or your children were walking out on the ice and they fell in, what would you do? Those were my men. Even the ones on the ground that I never met, they were mine.
Bruce, as so many heroes, comes from unassuming roots. As a teen growing up in Olympia, he was a baseball star, an All-American. And while in high school, he was also a member of the Washington National Guard.
I joined the Guard when I was 15. I lied a little bit about my age, but it was an income thing.
As a member of the National Guard, Bruce, in his second year at UW, was free to ignore the draft notice he received in 1952. But he didn't. Instead, he signed up for active duty with the Army.
I figured if I went in the military and served, I could still play ball.
He indeed became an indispensable team member, but not as a batter, as an Army helicopter pilot. By 1965, at age 32, he was a major in the newly formed Air Mobile Division, the 1st Cavalry. And that's how he found himself moving troops and provisions in the jungles of Vietnam.
Johnson had taken over, and the decision was made to build up. And with the Cav was one of the first, well, it was the first division-sized unit to be deployed.
By the fall of 1965, the troops ordered to Vietnam by President Johnson were facing increasing resistance by the North Vietnamese Army, trained soldiers who posed a more organized threat than the guerrilla forces of the Viet Cong. When the North Vietnamese Army attacked a Special Forces base at Plai My, the hunt was on. The 1st and 7th Cavalries were ordered to pursue the enemy and attack.
That's what we were looking for, really. We wanted to find them and fight them. It's that search and destroy.
Bruce, with 16 choppers in the 1st Cav under his command, airlifted troops to a jungle clearing named X-Ray, which served as a landing zone. On the 5th flight in, U.S. forces were ambushed. So began the Battle of Ia Drang.
On the 5th lift, they just shot the living hell out of us. We had people shooting from just outside of my rotor width. People popped up behind a tree, and one guy was in the tree, and they were shooting people off my aircraft. When I came out of that landing zone, I had 3 dead and 3 wounded.
And that was only on Bruce's helicopter. The losses were devastating.
The landing zone had to be closed because I lost, well, over half my aircraft had to be grounded, including mine.
But there were hundreds of U.S. troops on the ground, surrounded, wounded, and under attack. With bullets flying at the landing zone, medevac choppers, following strict protocol, wouldn't fly into the fray. Bruce knew he couldn't leave his comrades stranded.
I asked for volunteers to go with me, and my wingman, Ed Freeman, volunteered with his aircraft. There were about 450 people on the ground. They were being attacked by over 2,000. So Ed and I kept going the rest of the day, taking in ammo and medical supplies and water. And we'd been in the air 14 and a half hours flying. So when we finished, I was really pretty bad shape. I can't stand blood. And they were washing my aircraft out with 5-gallon cans of water. And I went behind the helicopter and got sick when I got out.
Bruce and Ed Freeman made 22 flights. They evacuated 70 wounded. Both Bruce and Ed were awarded the Medal of Honor for their actions.
The idea that we would leave somebody behind, it's just not acceptable to any of us.
The Battle of Ia Drang cost the lives of over 300 U.S. troops. It was the first major battle in Vietnam, but it wasn't the last time Bruce risked his life to do his job as a soldier.
Every flight I ever made in Vietnam was to do the best I could do. And the only thing that was in my mind was that I should do this, that I don't want to screw up and cause other people to die.
And out of all the honors awarded to Bruce, there is one that stands above all others.
I think the greatest honor a soldier can have is to lead troops and lead our young people. When somebody says, God bless you, he already has.
The UW's Medal of Honor Memorial reminds us of what we owe to Bruce Crandall and all the men and women who have served in our armed forces. You'll find a link on our website, uwtv.org/UW360, for more information about the memorial. Up next is an update on a story we first brought you a year ago. Fold It is a game created by University of Washington professors that shows that humans working with computers can solve problems that neither can do alone. And recently, Fold It players discovered some very interesting information about the HIV virus.
Take 1 part biochemistry, 1 part computer programming, and 1 part online gaming. What do you get? Well, in this story, you get a solution to a complex scientific question, a solution discovered by a community of non-scientists.
And that's a completely new thing. To my knowledge, that's never happened before in any area related to biochemistry.
To arrive at today, let's backtrack to 2008. That's when UW biochemists teamed up with computer programmers at the University of Washington's Center for Game Science. For several years, the biochemists had been enlisting volunteers to donate downtime on their computers to crunch data. Using a program called Rosetta, the computers tried various configurations in a hunt to determine the three-dimensional structures of proteins.
Proteins have the remarkable property of folding up into very precise three-dimensional structures, and a protein will fold up to the lowest energy state it can find. So what the computer does is it makes a random move, and it measures the energy, and then decides based on that whether or not it should keep that move or should go back to where it was.
Sometimes the volunteers watched the automated Rosetta program on their monitors, and they noticed some mistakes.
People wrote in and said, I'm looking at this protein folding up and I can see that this helix on the left should be going right. I don't know how they knew that, but and so they wanted some way to interact with that.
Oh, look at how
far away it is?
Yeah, pull it right up tight against that.
So to tap the power of the human brain, the Center for Game Science developed Fold It. It's an online protein folding game with a worldwide community of players.
Oh, whoa.
Very few of whom are scientists.
The computers do what the programmer tells them. So they have a particular thing and they keep doing it over and over again. What people do is they adapt. People have intuition.
So now shake and wiggle.
But a person can look at it and say, I think we should go to that valley way, way over there. Let's make this big movement. And that's the kind of thing a computer can't really do.
I'm going to do a science puzzle.
And as it turns out, the Fold It gamers did something even a team of scientists couldn't do. Challenged to figure out the structure of a critical piece in a virus related to HIV, Fold It players solved the puzzle in just 3 weeks. The gamers didn't find a cure for AIDS, but they did prove it doesn't take years of study to make a contribution to science.
The really important implication of this paper is that non-scientists can solve long-standing scientific problems.
Sheets together would be a good one.
In the future, Fold It gamers might contribute to cures for diseases or help design new drugs and vaccines.
There are a number of players that are strongly drawn to the game by the fact that they're actually finding solutions that will be available to the public.
We have now ongoing a number of different projects in which we're enlisting Fold It players in improving the molecules that we're making.
And there you go.
I think there's no end to what we can enlist them to do.
And congratulations, you won.
If you'd like to play Fold It, you'll find a link on our website, uwtv.org/UW360. It's free, and every new player has the potential to increase medical knowledge. Now, Fold It demonstrates the advantage that a human brain sometimes has over a computer model. It's all about the way we adapt to new knowledge and how we perceive our world, which leads to our next story. The UW's Northwest Center for Philosophy for Children teaches public school students how to develop critical and creative thinking skills at a very young age.
If you were trying to explain to someone what we do in philosophy or why it's interesting.
If you knew you were going to die in 30 days, what are the things that would be most important to you?
I think that my favorite thing to do before I die would be to cook. Earth. Maybe like people I know, like family and friends.
This is the kind of philosophical question that adults might struggle with, and it's one of many that are asked in this 4th grade classroom at John Muir Elementary School in Seattle.
Okay, I take off tap dancing.
You would take off tap dancing?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I think that philosophy for children is really important because I think that children do have what I think of as a philosophical self. And what I mean by that is the part of us that wonders about the circumstances of our existence, that sort of marvels about the strangeness of how we find ourselves here and why we're here and what all of this is supposed to mean.
Has anyone read the book Stuart Little?
Jana Moore-Lone is the director and founder of the Northwest Center for Philosophy for Children, part of the University of Washington's Department of Philosophy. For many years, she's been teaching philosophy to children from preschool to high school.
Oh, fish feathers.
Through the center, UW graduate and undergraduate students are learning those skills as well, then leading philosophy sessions in Seattle classrooms at no cost to the schools.
What would philosophy for 4th graders look like? I had no really preconception about how that would play out in the classroom. So I was pleasantly surprised to have them come in and engage students in, thinking about life and questions about life.
But really, I think that if you like for real were gonna die, I think you'd give up that and just take like what really, really means something.
And the kids are like, raising their hands and they're barely containing themselves and they want to, we've had kids, just almost everybody in the entire class participates and wants to participate and is excited. And it's wonderful to see, and that's what I think really education is meant to do.
In philosophy class, students explore their own thoughts, learning to think critically and creatively.
What else could a contest be?
For this age group, sessions start with reading a story. Next is coming up with questions and exploring possible answers.
We're looking at the things that happen in the story, and we're asking higher order thinking level questions. Kind of like the rabbit in the story who steals the stuff from Mr. McGregor, but his carrot patch. Could he control that? Was that wrong? Was it right? What if he was hungry? What if he was doing it to feed his family?
Genuine learning takes place when you are not sort of passive recipients of knowledge, being given to you, but are personally engaged in whatever it is the topic is in the classroom, and a connection is made for you.
Makes me just think.
While philosophy helps students cultivate reasoning and analytical skills, it also fosters an appreciation for other people's viewpoints. And that may be the best lesson of all.
The participants start to recognize that there are a whole range of perspectives from which the world can be viewed, and that those perspectives can be very different from your own, but they don't have to then be threatening.
I don't think one another can be better than the other because it depends on your opinion.
And I think particularly today, when we're living in a world in which people argue that their own perspectives are the only way of seeing the world, and in which much violence and oppression takes place because of that sort of rigid point of view, that exposing children early to the, in my view, truth that there are multiple ways of seeing the world is really important and valuable.
To learn more about the Northwest Center for Philosophy for Children, go to our website at uwtv.org/UW360. Okay, now for a little bit of history. This year, the University of Washington is celebrating its 150th birthday. On UW360, we're working with film archivists from the UW Library's special collections to bring you glimpses into campus life of the past. Take a look at this recruitment video put together 40 years ago by the athletic department. You'll notice that it was definitely designed to attract males.
Welcome to Seattle, the pearl of the great Pacific Northwest and the home of the University of Washington. This is Washington. Its campus, its heritage, its tradition, its fans, and its spirit. Proud byproducts of that dynamic force known as the Purple and Gold. A legion of athletes in action whose exploits on the battlefields of sport have brought distinction and honor to the university. The university campus is a complex union of minds and men, of bricks and books. It's a vast collection of resources for learning, a storehouse of man's heritage of knowledge, and a forum for creative investigation and the discovery of new knowledge. Above all, a university is a center for ideas. The qualities of you, the incoming student to the University of Washington, consist of imagination, perception, courage, and technical mastery. They're not necessarily confined to those who paint, sculpt, compose, or write, nor are they limited to the genius. The creative mind experiments and builds at every level and in every field, from medicine, law, and teaching, to social work, economics, and engineering. This is Washington, where not all that higher education has to offer can be found in the classroom. Among the most valuable moments, remembered and laughed about for years, are those times shared by friends in a living group. On a visit to one of Washington's colorful dormitories, you'll find all the comfort and convenience of home. The leisure and relaxed atmosphere of the dorms offer a unique experience in living on campus. Breathtaking views from many of the rooms add a special dimension to a residential environment which you can't help but enjoy. The geography of a small city, commonly known as the U District, whose major thoroughfare, University Way, is forever alive with students checking out the stores, the shops, the scenery, and finally, gathering at a popular drive-in for the traditional burger and shake. It is this kind of a campus community that has created a convenient and personalized environment. The university is where the making of new friends and development of special interests and goals abound in all areas. This is what Washington is all about.
Over the UW's 150 years, campus traditions have come and gone. Some have endured, like the annual ringing of the bell atop Denny Hall to mark the Huskies' homecoming football game. This was the 50th year that Brewster Denny rang the bell.
In 1961, the University of Washington turned 100, and Brewster Denny started a tradition, ringing the bell in the Denny Hall belfry on the Friday before the homecoming game.
A very old bell, you know, headed for the campus in 1861, the year that the university was born.
It was shipped around the Horn of South America and brought up to Seattle and installed in the Territorial University downtown Seattle.
The bell called students to class and rang for important events. It could be heard all the way across Puget Sound.
It was rung during the Great Seattle Fire in 1889 to warn people, and it was also rung at the time of the death of Abraham Lincoln.
Brewster's great-grandparents, Arthur and Mary Denny, donated most of the land for that first campus. When the university moved to its current location in 1895, the first building on the site would eventually be named Denny Hall. The bell installed in the belfry atop that first building got a new name as well.
And they named it the Denny Bell after they named it Denny Hall.
On a rainy Friday in October 2011, the UW is 150 years old, and Brewster Denny is 87. He's ready to ring the bell, just as he has for the last 50 years. Over time, it's become a family affair.
Dad would take me on campus when I was old enough to go and ring the bell with him.
There were years when the belfry and the bell were being restored, and the Dennys had to get a little creative to ring it.
It was in this huge warehouse, and we had to go through the stacks of other artifacts that were being stored there at the time and ring it from there. But we did it. And then there were a couple of years where they actually put it on a flatbed truck and brought the bell to the field, and we rang it during halftime.
And one year, long ago, Brewster found the clapper missing, possibly stolen as a student prank. He had to improvise, but he made sure the bell rang.
I went all the way up to the bell itself and found this piece of steel up there and hit the bell with it.
Yay, Brewster. Great job, Brewster.
Brewster can't climb the stairs anymore, but he pulls the rope from down below. His wife, Patricia, and grandchildren Ella and Jacob help out above. Outside, a small but enthusiastic crowd gathers to celebrate. Today, Brewster Denny achieved his goal to ring the bell for 50 years, and he's inspired new generations to carry on.
The lovely thing about the bell ringing tradition is the 3 generations. And that's the part that's meant a lot to me over the last 10 years, getting my children involved and having that connect to my childhood and them seeing that connection, but also just having that relationship to their grandfather.
Go Huskies!
If you'd like to know more about the Denny Hall Bell, you'll find links on our website, uwtv.org/UW360. And that's it for this edition of UW360. You can watch this episode again on our website, and we'll be back next month with all new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in December.